So how does this work? Okay. Just gonna give a few minutes for everyone to come in. Okay, 4 minutes. Three minutes, and then we'll get going. Hey, Deja. Hey, Dean. It's going well. Vancouver's been a lot of fun so far. Such a big city, but yeah, adopting to it. A lot more rain. Hey, Christy. Oh, and I got She Blurb's podcast here. If you didn't know, I happened to be on that podcast a little while back. Okay, 2 minutes. And we got Nadia and Natasha on Instagram. I'm actually kind of got two streams going, so you'll see me looking at a couple of different cameras here. One on the computer and then one on the Instagram. 1 minute. Hey, and my sister has shown up too. Cool. A few more coming on Instagram. Okay, you know what? We will get going. I was trying to figure out how to do a screen share for those on the Facebook, but live and learn. So that's fine. We can get this tablet so we can look at some of the artwork. But we'll get this party started. So yeah, welcome everyone. Most of you know who I am, Con Lavery, Canadian author and graphic designer. Yeah, I've been writing most of my life. Give you a little background if you're not familiar with it, and then I'll explain what this whole book's about and why we're all here today. The yeah, writing career started long, long time ago, like most writers back in like when I was a tiny kid, and it actually started from me creating board games. There were terribly imbalanced board games that was kind of on a gridlock system, um, with two opposing factions, and I created a lot of backstories for these rules, and I got more and more into telling the backstories for the board games than actually making all the rules for the board games, and decided that I should just write more. And then I kept writing up until 2012 was my first official release, Reality, Part 1 of Mental Damnation, which has some relevance to this novel we're looking at today. And we'll cover how all the work kind of fits under one macrocosm, is what it's called. Then that's me, as in a nutshell. I'm graphic designer, so kind of always put in artwork or music as well into the work that I do through transmedia storytelling, and that happens to be the form of telling a greater story through multiple medias. And I've been obsessed with it for as long as I can remember. And everyone has seen transmedia storytelling, like Star Wars or Game of Thrones or Harry Potter would be like bigger intellectual properties that would be an example of that. And usually, that type of storytelling, you need a big budget. But I managed to worm my way around and make it work on a much smaller budget as an individual, seen through the artwork and working with illustrators and musicians over my career. So that's me in a nutshell. Hello, newcomers from Instagram and Facebook. We are now starting. Good timing to drop in because we are celebrating the launch of Crystal Moth Conspiracy. This is the print book, which will be coming in about a couple weeks. Stay tuned for that. The ebook has launched today, on sale for 99 cents as a celebration for the launch. The Crystal Moth Conspiracy is the very first novel in the Ashbourne series that is going to be a supernatural thriller spanning for a minimum of 3 books, and then we'll see where the story goes from there. And overall, it follows rabbit holes of all the great things that come out of a classic conspiracy. You've got like government control, media manipulation, intelligent reptilians and gangsters, and even Hollow Earth a little bit in there. So it covers all that fun stuff. And Crystal Moth Conspiracy brings us into the shoes of a character called Lola Cabello, and she is the main protagonist in this story that had a real rough go, where her best friend, her predecessor, and her mother have been killed because of this gang, after she withheld evidence from the police. And she is basically out for revenge. This gang ruined her life and took her family from her, so she's out to get them. And little does she know that this gang has ties into what's known as the old world. She knows nothing, like everyone who is blind to the real world, is that magic and the supernatural are very much real. And she goes down this rabbit hole, seeing how deep the ties of the Crystal Moth are, involving intelligent reptilian drug lords, fallen angel, demons, talking trees, and other fantastical creatures that come throughout the story. It's quite dark, follows multiple points of view, such as Lola Cabello being our vigilante protagonist. We have a detective, Ricardo Iglesias. He plays a big role in the story, and it actually was a lot of fun to write because he keeps the story really, really rooted while Lola Cabello is going off on this spiral rabbit hole of surrealism. And she uncovers basically the Crystal Moth's new drug known as Ash, and Detective Iglesias is also trying to crack down on this Ash case while hunting Lola Cabello and bring her into the police. So he was a fun character. You got those two points of views, and then you got a third point of view in the story following one of the villains known as Scalebane. And if you happen to have read Reality or any of the Mental Damnation series, that name would be familiar. It's quite the spin from the Mental Damnation series. Thankfully, because Scalebane is represented as a villain in this series, it's quite different, and you don't need to read any of my previous work to really enjoy the Crystal Moth Conspiracy or the Ashbourne series. Um, yeah, that's overall the plot of what happens in this book. It covers a number of different themes. I've got it split into 5 acts. And if you're on the Facebook event, you'll see I dropped in a bunch of pictures. 5 of them happen to have Roman numerals in them. Those are Act 1 through 5, which follow the 5 stages of addiction. I've changed the names a little bit and kind of tied it into an online article I found about the 5 stages of manipulation. So addiction, manipulation, put those into together, and it happened to work really well for the different spots of the story because overall those are kind of the core themes in the novel are, yeah, addiction and of all types, whether it's power or substance or internal, external, along with yeah, complete manipulation seen through some of the characters um, that control the media. And one of the characters actually is a reporter, and we get some chapters with him as well. Those are the themes of the story, and the story took a while to come into being. Yeah, it dates back way back to when I was in high school, so even before I'd published Reality, this story concept happened to be floating around for a long time, more so as a premise and a setting, but I didn't really have any of the characters flushed out, and the main character happened to change a bunch of times while it was floating around in my head. And then it wasn't until 2020 I finally decided to write the very first draft. Um, Made it up to a third of the book during NaNoWriMo, and for those of you that don't know, that is National November Novel Writing Month, and wrote 50,000 words. It kept going in the wrong direction. I tend to both plot and then write on the seat of my pants, so I jump between the two styles, and usually when I start writing, I go in with no plot in mind, no outlining, and then see where it takes me and quickly learn where I need to backtrack. And it yeah, so that's when I started in 2020, erased a bunch of it, went back, worked on it, and finalized the book back in 2022. And from there it went through revisions, and now here we are with the official launch. And thank you everyone for joining. That's a bit of a background on the story. So I think yeah, I'll read one chapter, then I'll share some of the artwork and talk about the macrocosm, which houses all these stories. And then we can do a little Q&A if you have any questions that are on your mind. So the chapter that we're going to cover is chapter 1. So you can get right into it and get a sense of the mood and the setting and the feeling of the narration and characters. Chapter 1, New Product. Everyone is a media watcher, zombified by the screen and unable to see through its lies. Lola sure learned this the wrong way. Sure, she's been an outcast from society most of her life, but this isn't some goth club filled with posers wearing black head to toe, criticizing the masses for being sheep. This is rock bottom with roughnecks. No more fictionalized fantasies of how reality functions. No more ludic loops for dopamine kicks. Goodbye shock news on the tube. This is actual survival. Mom would be so proud, Lola thinks, clutching her handgun with her sweaty fingers. Mom, no. She'd best pay attention to the man sitting across from her. The cartilage is misaligned, covered in red from when she pistol-whipped him earlier. Cherry liquid drips from his nose, falling onto the unfinished wooden table, soaking into the grain. Her mother. It's why she is here. It's why she dragged this man onto the second floor of the abandoned warehouse and zap-strapped him to the chair. His narrow, beating face tightens into a sneer under the clear light bulb dangling by a chain. That's hate. He cannot see Lola's face as she hides behind the lamp, casting intimidation as best as she can. As you know, this ash stuff is taking the world by storm, the man says with an attempted tough guy tone reverberating in the darkness. His high pitch is too high for the attitude he projects, but he tries. And no one knows where it comes from, but I still don't know where they got it or what the hell it is. Since that night, I just sell it. No way have I tried it. I'm clean now. My kid doesn't need a deadbeat father. Most of the time, I grind it up to disguise it, which makes it look like some charcoal or ash. Okay, Chen, how much does it go for? Lola asks, her voice faking a silvery calm tone. Truthfully, she's as scared as him. She's never interrogated anyone before. His pencil stash above his lip and tacky faded tattoos scattered across his arm make him less of a threat than some of the criminals she's encountered. Though, the white rag tied to his bicep represents the dangerous beast that he comes from. Chen says, well, a gram can be $2.50. It depends on supply and where the cops are at. A pause. The moment holds. Look, I told you names. Everything. We change our meetup spot every time. Lola slides her gun off the splintered table, away from the open black bag. She tucks the firearm behind her back and reaches for the black bag. The light hints at her pallid skin and the blonde wig that boils her scalp. Chen's eyes squint, trying to get a good look at her. Lola will reveal her face when she wants to. Her hand goes into the bag and pulls out a flat, leathery, diamond-shaped object. She holds the ash into the light. The diamond is brittle along the edges and some parts are about to flake off. The core is thicker, stretchy, and holds hydration. You said organic, Lola asks. Despite the brittle edges, it's fresh enough that she can spin the ash between her thumb and index finger. Amazing. This was not around until the summer, she thinks. Changes my whole strategy. Yeah, Chen says. A leaf? Well, I don't know. It sure as hell isn't made in a lab. It's a scale, Lola says. A scale? Like a reptile? Yeah, dumb shit. We have them as pets. They're in the wild. Chen shifts in his seat, upset that she's belittling him. He says, Okay, lady. Why hasn't the news said anything? Lola smirks, placing the ash diamond on the table. She drags the wig off, resting it on her sombre gray cargo pants beside the open burner phone. The cool air touches her sweaty, short hair as she pushes the light away, letting Chen get a good look at her. He analyzes her up and down. His mouth hangs open, surprised at who she is. Maybe expected someone older or a little more grizzled and not some girl kicked out of university. Lola says, The news knows, but they're part of the game. Everyone is fabricating this bullshit fairy tale we live in. Give it time, and some leaks will find their way on the web. You're clearly not a cop. What do you want? Chen asks. She leans forward. Now, Chen's gaze locks onto the nasty bullet scar on her chest. Underneath the left black tank top strap. Ugh. Lola could have kept her jacket on, but she wanted him to see. She wants this lowlife scum to be the message to her employers so they know she's coming for them. You street dealers have no idea how deep the Crystal Moths run, Lola says. Chen doesn't blink, glued to the scar. Hey, you're that girl, aren't you? Lola lets go of the light and sits still. The chain moves in a pendulum motion, casting sharp contrast on her stone-cold face, back and forth. Without looking, she grabs the burner phone and dials 911 with her thumb. Yeah, Chen says in a deep exhale. You exposed the cops out west with that video. The Crystal Moth bust in Edmonton with the hashtag Yegman. I don't believe it. Believe what you want. I do. You're that reporter kid that everyone goes to on her website. Lola Cabello. Lola tosses the burner phone onto the table while standing. She throws her leather jacket over her shoulder and clutches the wig. Cops are on the way, she says. Chen's face is frozen, looking at the phone. Now, he is aware of its dual functions displayed on the screen. 1, dead center of the display shows the dialing of the police. 2, the recording text beside a flashing red dot and a microphone icon in the upper portion of the screen. His skin must be ice cold now, knowing how much he has spilled. She turns and walks away towards the dark exit at the far end of the warehouse. With each step onto the cold concrete, the leather boots leave a high click. Hey! Chen shouts. Keep walking, Lola thinks, exhaling a wave of relief. Hey! Chen shouts again. She reaches for the door, pushes it, and slips into the dust-covered stairwell. Don't go west! Chen's voice is muffled by the door. They'll kill you! She keeps walking under the night light shining through the broken glass windows. The distancing Chen curses her name. Lola's heart tries to climb out of her throat. She can't stop now, for she put this mess into motion. Chen isn't going to be all right. The cops are like the news, with profound Crystal Moth influence. That failed recognition started the snowball she's frozen to. Lola pushes the exit door and hurries down the alleyway, coated with fluffy snow. She slips into her leather jacket and tucks the wig onto her head. Sirens blare, increasing in volume throughout the night metropolis. She'll escape in time, and the cops will take Chen in. They'll hear the whole recording, and with a sliver of luck, an authentic law enforcer will get the evidence. The possible scenario is that a Crystal Moth plug will take care of Chen and the evidence. It's happened to her before, and that's okay. Chen isn't responsible for what happened in Edmonton. He is the message. Every one of these pricks is going to pay for what happened. Lola will make sure of it. And that is the first chapter in this new novel. It goes on from there, following Lola, Detective Iglesias, who was in chapter 2. And yeah, that kind of sets up the overall tone and mood for the novel that goes on. So I'd like to share a bit of the artwork and a bit about the macrocosm after. Before, I had talked about the transmedia storytelling, which is the combining of multiple medias to tell a greater story. And some of my past releases had included novel scores, which worked with different musicians to create moods for the chapters. Then I've also worked with a number of different illustrators, like for short stories, the Rutherford Manor series, if you're familiar with some of those works. And then this time I got to work with a good friend and illustrator of mine, his name's Lee Nielsen. And he happened to do the cover, which is that one. So it's show you what it looks like without the typeface. I did the type, but on its own it works pretty good. Oh, 1 second. And it's always fun working with different artists as a writer, because you obviously give words to help people envision images and feelings in their mind, but when it's their turn to transcribe that into how they see it, it's fascinating, whether it's music or visuals, to see what people think. And it's like, oh, that's how you envision the character. And you know what? That actually is either bang on, or it's even better than what you could have thought on your own. So it was really fun to work on that. And when I was talking earlier about the different acts in the story, so here's an example of one of the artwork found within the novel. I did the interior artwork, which is the usual photo collage work that I do in a lot of my work, and it's a mixed media where it starts on digital, printed, paint over with gouache and charcoal, and then throw it back onto the computer to give some final touches, usually related to contrast and color correcting. All of these are in the Facebook event, so you can take a look at them. There's Act 5. And on top of all that, this story fits within the macrocosm. So this is a very short, quick timeline, kind of hard to see on the Instagram, but you can go and see a full version of it on my website. But the beginning is the Mental Damnation series, and then as the story progresses, we've got a few of my standalone novels, finally Crystal Moth Conspiracy, and some short story collections. The full timeline. This thing doesn't rotate. You know what? Yeah, go to the website. You'll see a better one. But I'll show you some of the books. So, like the Crystal Moth conspiracy happened to be a standalone direct relation to Yegman, which happened to feature the Crystal Moths as villains, and Lola Cabello is a side character while we follow Michael Bradford, who's her predecessor. And he's mentioned a few times in the Crystal Moth conspiracy novel, and we actually get Lola's perspective. But this one is mostly about Michael Bradford, and where we get introduced to Lola as just a university punk. And the macrocosm really was always kind of an idea with a bunch of Easter eggs where these there you go, Lee Nielsen has showed up, the illustrator behind the covers, or the cover. And yeah, the macrocosm started as Easter eggs being like trickled in between my novels. So like Mental Damnation linked to my first horror novel Seed Me, which is now called Cultivate. And that's all it really was little blips here and there. And then Into the Macrocosm came out in 2021, I believe. And it gave a little more light on it because it introduced a primary character from Mental Damnation, trickled into the short stories. And it still was pretty vague, but the macrocosm spans so much time and space and genres between the past that's filled with fantasy and mythology, the gritty present, which is all horrors and thrillers, and then the future, mostly done through sci-fi short stories, goes on. So it's quite a bit to encompass, and it was tough to find a good spot to tell the overarching story of the macrocosm with it being cohesive and not a complete mess. And that's where the Crystal Moth conspiracy came in, making a good standing point for everyone to jump into the macrocosm. And that's basically it as a nutshell. Yeah, I'd like to. I haven't actually cruised through any of the messages. If you have any questions, let's open it up to a Q&A. Yeah, because we're only going to be here for about half an hour. Don't want to take up your whole evening, and it's been about 27 minutes. So yeah, if you have any questions, do drop them into the comments on either Facebook or Instagram here. Just gonna look at the comments. I have not been paying attention. Question from She Blurbs: is this new book going to be on audiobook? I'd like that to be the case. It's pretty low on my priority list. Right now, I'm mostly working on book two, almost done the first draft. But for audiobook, I might start looking into finding a narrator. Since moving to Vancouver, it's been a little more challenging to record clean audio. The apartments here don't have as good sound containment, so makes background noise much more prominent. So no timeline on when the audiobook's going to be here. Christy Stratos: was this book planned as of the writing of Yegman? No, actually, no. The whole concept and premise for Crystal Moth Conspiracy and the Ashbourne series wasn't supposed to be directly related, and I didn't intend for the Crystal Moths to be the villains. The intelligent reptilians were supposed to be the villains, where they kind of discovered their scales can be smoked up or chewed or snorted by humans, and it gives them all sorts of psychedelic effects. So we had the basically reptilian drug lords, which is still in the story, but all that stuff is really far out. Works great for the fantasy, but I still wanted it to tie into some of the other works I'd done, like Rave or Cultivate or Yegman, where it still had grounding roots into reality. And that's kind of where Lola Cabello ended up working for, being the main protagonist, so people can go into her shoes and explore the world with her. And the Crystal Moth happened to fit in quite well unintentionally because a lot was unresolved at the end of Yegman, which was good for like an open ending concept for that novel, but there's so much more that could be told. A.L. Mengel, what inspired the title? That it bounced back and forth for quite a bit. The Crystal Moths, obviously, they came from Yegman, but the title moved around a lot. The very original title, way back in high school, was called King's Nine, which has relevance to the story, and it might even be like book three or something. But Crystal Moth Conspiracy seemed to really tell what the story's about, and I actually did a newsletter vote, maybe November, or December, or something. Basically, asked the people on the newsletter, "Here's the three titles I'm working towards. Let me know which one you like." And Crystal Moth Conspiracy won, and the actual Crystal Moth gang name was a little bit of a play on, I think you had mentioned earlier in a comment in the past about crystal meth, and yeah, that's partly one of the reasons why I came to that title for the Crystal Moths in Yegman when they were the villains there, because well, crystal meth, it kind of lines up. But then I also the moths are quite symbolic to the ideology and morals of the Crystal Moth gang and how they function. They kind of they're quite idealistic in terms of villains, which often ends up being some of the most dangerous of villains because they become blind to their idealism. So between those two concepts, I just took them and mashed them together, and it seems to make a pretty decent villain name. Lindsay Nicole, what is the most challenging character or scene to write? Hmm. Um, there's been challenging scenes from a story tie-in perspective, like the way everything kind of ropes in at the end. But that can be with a lot of stories. Specifically with this novel, Detective Iglesias required a lot of research. Um, Kind of like with Yegman. With Yegman, I happen to have a friend in Edmonton who's a police officer, and I interviewed him quite a bit because Michael Bradford, the protagonist in that novel, is a former police officer. So had to interview him. With this novel, Detective Iglesias is the head of the drug investigation for RCMP major crimes, which is how Canada handles crime on a federal level. It's the major crimes department, but they're run by the RCMP, even though they don't wear the red coats. So I had to do a lot of reading into the RCMP, and most of this stuff is just right on the Canadian website. You can learn about special operations and what different things they're doing overseas and what they're doing right here in the nation. You can learn about how the military actually works with major crimes, and sometimes they end up just kind of overtaking entire operations. So Detective Iglesias was a lot of work because I wanted it to still be believable, and keep the story in a grounded environment. And yeah, research was quite a bit with this one. As a Christy Stratus mentioned on Facebook here, it research actually was a whole big part of this, from the grounding standpoint on just making sure the law kind of worked out and it all made sense. Book two, I do quite a bit as well. I've been doing quite a hefty amount of research, and I have a lot more to go because it's still the first draft. But this one is mostly understanding how the RCMP functions, and also the some of the uh, D&D, which is Department of National Defense, and how they work with major crimes and the military, which is the Canadian CM something. It's a four-word abbreviation, but that one slipped my mind. Yeah, they basically they're the military, which is kind of cool on its own. And there's so many stories you could go off with that, having the military start interfering with local crime and even federal level crime. Yeah, let's say those are the main ones. CIS. There you go. Thank you, Dean. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much the book. I guess the important thing, where you can find it, it's currently just on Amazon. So if you want to read it, it's on sale for the week for 99 cents. Yeah, it'll be there. Yeah, I'm always around for more questions. Ah, Kira Demar, do you have a general full story worked out for this series? I do. I have. There's a couple arcs. Seeing how the series does, it's definitely going to be a 3 book series, and then from there I'll see if it makes sense to keep going with the story or if it wraps up nicely. But there is definitely a lot of lore and possibilities with characters and settings and even the factions in this world and this particular series that it could go on for like 2 arcs, so like 6 books, maybe more. But yeah, we'll see as time goes on. Oh no way! Dean says, yeah, a book written by an ex-CIS. Yeah, I'd be curious to know what that one is. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining. I'll let you carry on with your evening, and thank you so much, both on Instagram and on Facebook, for joining the book launch for Crystal Moth Conspiracy. It's been like, yeah, 15 years in the making, but really only 3 with the actual writing. But yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy the evening. And if you do have any other questions that come up, you can always message me. I'm on the platforms, and I'll catch you later. All right, everyone. Ciao.